All right, welcome to Chapter 3. Looking at Section 3.1, we are going to be looking at measurements of center. So this is where we're going to actually start taking some data and calculating stuff from it. So you'll need a calculator. You don't have to buy a big expensive one. You can just have one that is able to do scientific type of work. And so if you have a question about calculators, let me know, but you can buy a relatively inexpensive one. There are actually 4 measurements of center, as you may have seen already in the book or in the notes. There's the mean, right? There's the median, there's the mode, and our book also asks for the mid-range. Right? And so those are the 4 measurements of center that you're going to be asked to take. The mean is the average of the data. It's kind of the gold standard. That's what's going to be referred to often in the end. And there's a formula for the mean. So I'll start to write that down here. I'll put our formulas that we have. The mean, I think you know how to find the average. You add up all the data and then divide by the total number of data points. So I'm going to start using some symbols. Add up all the data and divide by the number of data points. So if we talk for just a moment, I'll put this in a different color off on the side. We'll use, I don't know, red over here. This guy right here is not a variable. This, it means to sum up. So alone it means nothing. So together it's saying over here, sum up the x's. And for us, and for always, x is a data value. And n is the number of data points. So that's what that formula is, right? Sum up all the data and divide by n. So we'll see that sum notation used a lot. Let me get rid of some of this so we have some room in here. You can always go back in the video to capture that. The median. The median is the value directly in the middle of the data. When the data is arranged from low to high. Okay, I might be using a bit of different vocabulary than the book, but that's good, right? You should hear it in a few different ways. The mode is the value, or possibly values that occur most often. And the mid-range is the average of the high and low. Okay, so mean, median, mode, and mid-range. So what's going to happen in the typical problem is they're going to give you some data. So I'll make up a problem. The following data represents quiz scores taken from 6 randomly selected students. Okay, so I randomly select the students and the first person got a 7 on their quiz. The next person got an 8. The next person got a 5. Then I had another 8. Then I had a 9, and I also had somebody with the quiz score 6. So the quiz was out of 10, and these were the 6 quiz scores that I randomly selected. So this is a sample, right? And the symbol here for the mean when it's a sample is X bar. So if you ever see X with a line over the top, that's the symbol for the sample mean. We're going to only be dealing with samples in chapter 3, so they won't give you the other notation for the mean, for the population mean, but this is, to use language that you know, the statistic, right? A value calculated from a sample. Oh, apologize. I put sample mean there. It's a little bit confusing. This is, I put sample size there. I should have written sample mean. I'm getting old, but that's okay. All right, so here we go. We got 6 data points, and they're going to say, hey, find for me the 4 measurements of center. That's what a majority of the homework's going to be like. You're like, I can do that. Let me start with the first one, the mean. We know how to do the mean. I'll remind you of the formula. The sample mean is equal to the sum of the x's divided by n. And so what will you do? Well, you'll grab a calculator and literally take 7, add 8, add 5, add 8, add 9, add 6 in any order that you want. And so if I do that, I get 7 plus 8 plus 5 plus 8 plus 9 plus 6. And I get a total of 43. Now, I need to divide by n. And what's n? N is the number of data points, or the sample size. And there are 6 numbers that I added up. And if I do 43 divided by 6, the answer goes on forever. So this provides us a good opportunity to talk about the rounding rule, which should have been stressed in the material there. The rounding rule is 1 decimal place beyond the original set of data. Round to 1 decimal place beyond the original data. So the original data is all in whole numbers, 7, 8, 5, 8, 9, 6. So what I'm looking at in my calculator is 7.16 and the 6 repeats. I'm going to have to report an answer of 7.2. 7.2 is the answer to that problem, rounded the way our author likes it to be rounded. That's the mean. That's usually the longest piece in the whole out of all 4 of them. The next longest potentially is the median. Remember, the median is the value right in the middle, but if the data is arranged. So if you were to find the median right now with the way the data is listed, with 7 coming first, followed by an 8, and then following that same thing that's written up there, ending with the 6, you won't get it. At least if you got it, it'd be by chance. So in order to find out the median, the first thing that you need to do is arrange the data, if it's not already done so. Arrange data from high to low. From low to high. High to low would work as well. But the lowest value is a 5, followed by a 6, followed by a 7, followed by 2 8s, and then there's a 9. And there's my 6 pieces of data. The median is literally the value that lies right in the middle. So as I come in, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use a highlighter. Oops, that's not a highlighter. Let me move to the highlighter. 5 and 9 cancel out. 6 and 8 cancel out. And 7 and 8 cancel out. I've canceled out everything. There's nothing left in the middle. So whenever that happens, I need to name that value right in the middle. And the value that lies right in the middle is 7.5. If you don't see that, you can take the 2 values, add them up, and divide by 2. And let your calculator tell you it's 7.5. But 7.5 is what we call the median, because it sits right in the middle of the data. So the median for this problem, and there's no symbol in our book for the median, so we won't use one, is 7.5, right? The value that lies right there in the middle. The next one is super fast, the mode. The mode for this is the value that occurs most often. So I can look at this arranged data set that's right here, right? And let me take off those highlights. Grab the eraser really quick and remove some highlights that are in here. And let's look at this data. What is the value that occurs most often? The moment that you see it is the moment you can be done. It's 8. Right? The value that occurs most often is 8. And then the mid-range is the average of the high and the low. So having that arranged data really helps with this. 5 is the low one, 9 is the high one. And if you're averaging the high and the low, you're adding them up and dividing by 2. So 14 divided by 2 for 7. So the mid-range is 7, the mode is 8, the median is 7.5, and the mean is 7.2, all pretty close to one another in there. So if I went to this data set and made up a new one, I'll put it in green. One that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9. Well, now it's the same, but let me add on another 9. Let's suppose I added a 7th student and their score was 9. My question to you is, what would change? Well, would your mean change? I believe it would. We tacked on another value. We would have a new mean. So let's go find our mean. We'd have to add up all those values. I believe they totaled up to be 43, right? 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 8 plus 9 was 43, but now we're going to add 9 more and we're going to get a 52, and we're dividing that 52 not by 6 but by 7, and if I divide it by 7 I get a new answer of 7.4. Right? It moved that average up. That makes sense. We got another good score in there, right? So that's the mean for this new piece of new data set. The median, it's a range, so we should be able to get that very quickly. Remember, a nice way to do the median is to cross out 1 for 1. You just work your way in, and look what you get. You get a number that sits right in the middle. That's going to happen every time there's an odd number of data points. When it's an odd number of data points, the median's part of the data set. When it's an even number of data point, it's always the average of the middle two. So the median in our case is very quick to get. It's 8. How about the mode? What value is repeated most often? Well, 8's repeated often, and so is 9. So both 8 and 9 are the mode. So if you remember my definition, it was the value or values that occur most often. So there could be more than one. There could actually be none. None would happen if no value was repeated. Okay, and then the last one is the mid-range. The mid-range will change. I'm sorry, the mid-range is the one thing that won't change because my low is still 5 and my high is still 9. So even though I have two 9s, it doesn't matter. I'm still getting the same 7 out. And so this is kind of the core piece of all of this. I'm going to make a separate video so that this doesn't go too long with another aspect that's in here, and that is the mean of a frequency table. I want that to be a separate video just so that it doesn't get lost in all of this. All right, thanks so much.